Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with an invocation led by Councilmember Grant, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Helsley. Please rise as you're able.
Bow our heads. We come before you today with grateful hearts for the opportunity to serve the people of Knoxville. We recognize that public service is both a privilege and a responsibility, and we ask for your wisdom as we carry out the work before us tonight. Help us treat one another with respect, agree even when we disagree, remind us that we cannot have different perspectives without losing our compassion, our commitment to one another as well. Give us the humility to listen, the courage to speak truthfully, and the grace to extend kindness in every conversation that we have here tonight. Guide our decisions so they are rooted in fairness, integrity, and a genuine desire to improve the lives of the people we represent. Help us govern better by working together, communicating with honesty, and keeping the needs of our community above our personal differences. I also pray for the residents of Knoxville. Bless our families, bless our neighborhoods, bless our first responders, our teachers, our business owners, and every person who calls this city home. May our actions tonight reflect the trust that they have placed in us. And may we leave this meeting tonight having strengthened our city and our relationships with one another. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would you please call roll, Mr. Johnson?
Councilwoman Adams.
Here.
Councilman DeBartoleben.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fugit.
Here.
Councilman Grant.
Here.
Councilman Helsley. Here. Councilman Honeycutt.
Here.
Councilman Lloyd. Here. Councilwoman Parker. And Councilman Thomas. Here. All members are present, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the minutes of the July 16th workshop? Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on the minutes of the July 21st regular meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now to tonight's agenda. Are there any items to be withdrawn? Are there any items to be postponed? Are there any items to be added by motion? We don't have any memorials or honorary resolutions. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Councilmember DeBartoleben.
I would like to make a motion to remove item 12R from the consent agenda.
12R. Okay, only one person needs to, but I hear the second. Okay, we'll remove item 12R from the consent agenda. Any other?
Mayor, I have an announcement.
Oh, okay. It takes a council member to remove something from the consent agenda, but just for your information, one person signed up to speak in opposition to 12Q, and one person signed up to speak, 12R has already been removed. So that's the only one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So just as an FYI. Councilmember Parker.
I'd also like to remove Q since someone signed up to speak,
Okay.
as well as S, T, and U.
Okay, so Q, R, S, T, and U are now on the regular, not consent agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
Q, R, S, T, and U. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everyone got that? Any other items to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda as amended? Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussions? Seeing none. Oh, Councilmember Parker, did you have a question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, time now for my report to you all. First, I want to start by, I'm sure we all know this, but I want to remind the general public and everyone watching that Election Day is 2 days away. So far, just over 50,000 people have cast early ballots in Knox County. That's out of a total population of over 500,000. So remember, now that early voting is over, you must vote in your assigned precinct. Polls are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And to see sample ballots or find your polling location and hours, go to knoxcounty.org/election. Next week, we want to remind everybody that thousands of students and staff will be returning to the classroom. Please be extra careful in school zones as kids and staff will be coming and going to school. I want to thank everyone in advance for paying special attention to keeping our students safe and wishing everybody a successful and fun school year. Speaking of students, I want to thank everyone who came out to help with the community playground build at Montgomery Village last week. I was honored to be part of this project along with dozens of volunteers from various city departments. This project is a result of community feedback as part of the city's Project TLC, and it was really heartwarming to ask what they wanted and needed in that community and then be able to deliver a playground, which was the highest need in that community as voiced by the residents and their kids. So a special thanks to the Office of Community Safety and Empowerment, KPD and KCDC for helping make this possible. And one final note, today is the 236th birthday of the United States Coast Guard. Is there anyone here who is a current or former member of the Coast Guard, a Coastie? Okay, Mike Seeley, please stand. Thank you. We appreciate your service. And a quick reminder about our rules of decorum. We are here to do the city's official business. Those who wish to speak either to a specific agenda item or during public forum need to sign up with the city recorder before 4 p.m. Do not use profanity, and when speaking to specific agenda items, you must stay on topic. Remarks must be germane to the question ahead of the assembly. That is, statements must have bearing on whether the pending motion should be adopted. Those who fail to adhere to these rules will be ruled out of order. For those who are listening, please note, if you disrupt a public meeting, you will be asked to leave or escorted out. Thank you in advance for respecting these rules. That concludes my mayor's report. Are there any reports of committee or council committees or council members serving on committees or boards? Councilmember Grant.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We had an audit committee meeting today, and we were able to receive a work plan for our internal auditor. So she was able to complete a work plan in response to the audit that was done. And so I just wanted to make the public aware, make my constituents aware that you should be receiving that shortly from our internal auditor, the actual work plan that was done in conjunction with the finance department. So I want to thank them for being able to get that done in a timely manner to better improve our processes. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there any, moving on to general council member announcements. Council member Thomas.
Yes, Lonsdale Homecoming 2026 is an annual event, is always a lot of fun. It will occur this weekend, Friday, August 7th through Sunday, August the 9th. Some of the events include a basketball empowerment clinic for students on Friday and Saturday, their annual parade beginning at 10 a.m. on Saturday on Texas Avenue, live music and dance on Saturday night, lots of good food supplied by local vendors and other things as well. Several sites on the web can be found simply searching Lonsdale Homecoming 2026 for more information and more details. And that's this weekend at Emerald Youth Foundation at 1740 Texas Avenue. And this year I was chosen as the Grand Marshal of the parade, which I consider it a high honor. So thank you, Lonsdale.
Wow. Good job.
And with that, I conclude my council report.
Thank you. Councilmember Helsley.
Yes, I want to wish Vice Mayor Fugit a belated birthday. It was last Wednesday, and she wasn't with us at the last meeting, so hope it was good.
Okay, Councilmember Grant.
Yes, just a few announcements. This Thursday, there's going to be an 865-day event being held at Chihowie Park. I've seen pretty much a lot of events occurring at Chihowie Park, which is just a good sight to see, seeing that the park is being utilized. And I want to give credit to Parks and Rec for just engaging the community and allowing it to be a streamlined process. So I look forward to that. It's going to be this Thursday. It's going to kick off at 5 p.m. It's going to be food trucks, vendors, just an opportunity for community members to come together, socialize, and just celebrate the city of Knoxville. Also want to mention next Monday, August 10th, The African American Equity Restoration Task Force is going to be hosting a public meeting at the Dogwood Center located at Knoxville Botanical Gardens. It's going to start at 5:30, so I'm welcoming the public to come in to attend that. And then also August 11th, next Tuesday at 5:30, is going to be the next CPAG meeting. So the Chowee Park Advisory Group is going to be hosting another meeting at 5:30 on that Tuesday at the Jacobs Building. So again, both of those events, welcome the community to come out and be a part of that process as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you. I had two items. The first one is just to help provide information about James White Parkway. I've had a lot of people contact me and asking about the closures there, and the best information is on the TDOT website. It's a TDOT project to do some repairs on James White Parkway. And the first time the closures will start is this weekend, so Friday, August 7th. That's at 7 p.m., and then that will go through Monday at 6 a.m. on August 10th. There will be other closures on the southbound lanes, but again, the TDOT website is really the best place to go for that information and to make sure that it's most up to date. One other thing, in addition to the students for the Knox County schools, District 1 is going to see a whole lot of students coming in very, very soon. They're a little bit older, but UTK move-in starts on August 9th and goes through August 14th, and then classes begin on August 17th. So it's a really big time for a lot of new faces, a lot of brand new students, and returning students. So I just ask everyone to say welcome, be patient, and remember different traffic and timetables.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further lights, we'll move on to the next agenda item.
9C is resolution electing Sarah Hindstrom Pennell to the Knoxville Utilities Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
10E is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of portions of property located at 0 and 3223 Valley View Drive from RN1 district to RN5 district, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. VO Rotar applicant, 4th district.
Councilmember DeBartoleben?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Parker.
I just wanted to share an explanation of why I voted against this item. We've gotten in the habit of approving zoning changes pretty much without discussion. And developers are able to seek a zoning change without sharing what their plans are. But we had gotten in the habit on council of getting more details about what those plans were before we approved those zoning changes. And for this area, I do have some concerns about flooding, not in the area that's already been addressed, but further down Valley View. And so that's one reason why I was not able to support it previously, not able to support it this evening. Still have questions about what type of development and the impact it might have on flooding in the area. So that was my reasoning.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12F is a resolution rescheduling the Beer Board meeting of December 21, 2027 to December 7, 2027, and postponing the council meeting of December 21, 2027 to January 4, 2028.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12G is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute documents to allow existing features of the Crest Building at 417 South Gay Street to continue to encroach into the public rights-of-way of Strong Street Alley and South Gay Street, District 6.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve, and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute all documents on behalf of the city of Knoxville necessary to acquire property in fee simple and for a temporary construction easement by negotiated purchase or condemnation if necessary within certain real property located at 6540 Maynardville Pike for a total amount not to exceed $5,000 to install a new traffic signal pole at the intersection of Maynardville Pike and Foley Drive, District 4.
Councilmember DeBartolome?
A motion to approve.
Motion made to approve
Second.
and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12I is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the contract with Henley Roofing Company Incorporated for the LT Ross Building re-roof project, increasing the amount by $62,702.50 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $841,902.50, District 6.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Grant?
Yes, I'm going to support this, but I did have a question for engineering department. I do recall us approving this original contract some months ago. I believe I raised the question in terms of change orders, right, and what that cap percentage is. And I see here that this kind of falls underneath the 10% threshold that we try to, follow. But having these change orders after, we're agreeing, and I get things happen, right? Increased costs, materials. But I just wanted to be sure that moving forward with this particular project, that we won't be seeing another change order from this particular company.
No, that's correct. And this change order, there was some metal sheathing underneath the roof when we took the roof off that we discovered, and a concrete parapet that had to be repaired. So it's things we discovered in the field.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claiborne. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12J is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with licensed physician Patrick O'Brien, medical doctor, to serve as medical director for the Knoxville Fire Department for an amount not to exceed $30,000 with 2 optional one-year renewals.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12K is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Seed Incorporated to provide an amount not to exceed $25,000 in community development block grant funding to support the home repairs and weatherization program.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember Grant?
Yes, I did have a question, and I believe I saw Mr. J.D. Jackson in the crowd. Just had a couple questions regarding this particular contract.
Mr. Jackson, if you could turn on the microphone and state your name and address for the record, and we'll see what questions Mr. Grant has. Yep, you got it.
It's on now. Hey, how you guys doing? Good evening. My name is J.D. Jackson. My address is 1626 Carabel Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. So just a couple questions for clarity for myself and the community. This particular home repairs and weatherization program, what exactly does it entail?
Well, it's similar to a program we did with the EPA. We do house calls, house visits, we do home assessments, find out what the needs for these families as far as weatherization, as far as the things they need to, help their home.
Okay. And in terms of how you measure those outcomes?
Well, we measure them by the amount of, what we do, we give away kits. And the kits are energy efficiency kits. They have fans in them. They have things in these kits to do weatherization, caulk guns, and stuff like it. And we measure by that by how many homes we actually give these out to. And we help install these kits too. So the measurement in itself is just helping the customer.
Okay. And is there a process where we're tracking these individuals, their KUB bill? Are you seeing their KUB go from a certain price to a lower price?
Well, these kids won't drastically reduce their KUB bill. The thing is we give these kids to these families so they can help themselves, like I said, do the things. As far as the miserable outcomes, we don't go back 6 months or 12 months and find out, how low they bill, how much their bill's lower than this and that.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate it, and I definitely want to, say I appreciate Seed kind of taking the opportunity to kind of help our, residents with this program. We got a lot of old style homes, right, that were built in older times, and so oftentimes, KUB and utilities, are affected by these. So definitely want to say thank you, but I just wanted to get that clarification.
Oh, no problem, man.
And I appreciate you showing up tonight.
You guys have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Family Investment Foundation Incorporated to provide an amount not to exceed $144,000 in community development block grant funding to support the Accessible Homes Stable Futures program.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12M is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Bridgestone America's Tire Operations, LLC, to lease tires for use on the Knoxville area transit bus fleet with an estimated annual cost not to exceed $150,000 for a 3-year term with 2 one-year options to renew.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12N is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Play World Preferred Incorporated to provide the removal and replacement of playground resurfacing at Suttree Landing Park for an amount not to exceed $128,626, District 1.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12O is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Imes Nature Center to provide trash and debris removal services for the waterways from forks of the river to the end of Sequoia Park for an amount not to exceed $60,000 annually.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember Adams?
Yes, I just wanted to put on the record that I do serve as a volunteer member on the Iams Nature Center board and do not receive any type of compensation, so I do plan on voting on this.
Okay, thanks for the info. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12P is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents that was already on consent.
Yeah.
12Q is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant from the Federal Transit Administration and the Tennessee Department of Transportation to provide funding in the amount of $11,898,636 to Knoxville Area Transit for Formula Urbanized Area Transit Grant Assistance, utilizing Sections 5307 and 5339 grant funds for fiscal years 2024 through 2026, with a total city match of $1,189,864.
Is there a motion? Motion made to approve.
Second.
Seconded. Any questions or discussion? Oh, is there a public forum speaker? That's right. That's what. Yes, sorry. Thank you. Elliot Lloyd has signed up to speak on this item. Mr. Lloyd, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Hi, my name is Elliot Lloyd. I live at 708 Morgan Street, Knoxville, Tennessee 37917. When people navigate our city without a car, they travel in a way that causes less air and noise pollution, reduces traffic and congestion, poses less danger to people and property, reduces the rate at which road repairs are needed, and supports a system that those who can't drive rely on. There are many reasons not to drive. Some may feel like these reasons are out of their control. However, the benefits they contribute to their community occur regardless. These contributions should be acknowledged and their behavior should be incentivized. As Knoxville grows, these benefits will become even more vital. Giving public transit the funding needed to ensure they have reliable buses and stops that are accessible and comfortable will give the city a return on their investment and improve the quality of life for everyone who travels through our city.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes people who signed up to speak to this item. Councilmember Parker?
Is it possible to discuss the level of funding that is put into our transit system? I know I did not ask that question ahead of time, so you might not have those numbers, but is it possible to paint a picture for us in addition to the dollars mentioned here, if there are
Off the top
additional?
of my head, I believe it's about 22 million a year in general funds. And then we also get federal funds, particularly in the capital area. Mr. Evans, that's just off the top of my head. I know it's a lot.
I don't know if it's 22 million exactly. It changes year to year, but it's in the neighborhood 20 to 22, something like that. Yes, ma'am. And the rest is from primarily federal dollars, some state.
And I'd be happy to provide, more details about that by email later this week.
That would be great. I mean, I think a lot of folks in our city would like to see us have a more robust public transit system, and I think to even begin that conversation, we need a clear understanding of how much we're currently investing in it. And I know it's more than the $1 million match in this agenda item, so I just wanted to clarify that. But I also agree to get the system that we want, we're going to need to invest more. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify how much we are investing. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we'll get an email out later this week with that information. I mean, it's on the website somewhere, but we'll put it in a more distilled manner, so thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12R is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept funding from the Downtown Knoxville Alliance in the amount of $31,069.84 with no required match to purchase cameras for the downtown Market Square area.
Motion made to approve.
And point of clarification, was that the old number that was just read? We got a correction on the number. I think
Yeah, 31 is the correct number.
31 is the correct number, okay.
So the correct number was the one that was just said.
It's my understanding the resolution has an incorrect number that was published on the agenda.
Mr. Swanson?
So we'll need an amendment to amend that number down to 31,000. I had it here just a second and it disappeared on my computer. $31,069.84.
No.
Someone would be willing to make that amendment.
That's what my agenda says, that exact number. Oh, okay. The caption's right, the resolution isn't, okay. Will you put your microphone on, please, Vice Mayor?
I thought I was pretty loud. I move to amend the ordinance to reflect the number $31,069.84.
Okay, motion made to amend to correct, to the correct amount has been made and seconded. Does everyone understand the amendment? All those in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Is there a motion on the floor for this? There already was one. Okay. Okay, so now we're considering the motion as amended. There's someone who signed up to speak at public forum, so we'll listen to that person and then start with our discussion. Nicole Skinner, are you present? If you would come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Hello, my name is Nicole Skinner. I live in Inskip. The Knoxville Police Department has proven time and time again that they can't be trusted with their current responsibilities and the resources they already have access to. This includes a long pattern of terrorizing our unhoused neighbors, who would likely be most affected by the location of these new cameras in Market Square. Cameras like these are already being used to disappear cherished members of our community. In Knoxville and throughout East Tennessee, there's a pattern of ICE using automatic license plate readers and unmarked vehicles to surround people while they're driving, abduct them off the side of the road, and then tow their vehicle away. KPD has a vague policy allowing them to hold people for approximately 20 minutes for ICE to come pick them up. One KPD officer even violated policy to bring someone directly to the ICE office. On a very related note, Nazis were able to commit a genocide because they were enabled by people who supplied them with the equipment they requested, and people who looked away from atrocities that they could have helped to stop. The people who made decisions just like this one. There are still so many unanswered questions about this resolution. Who would have access to this surveillance data, and for how long? What other costs would be associated? Where would these cameras be placed? What's the price tag on our civil rights? Because it seems like there is one. If y'all are ever curious why more people don't vote in your elections or come to meetings like this one, it's because this is the shit y'all waste our time talking about. We have neighbors who don't know where their next meal will come from. We have neighbors who won't have a roof over their head tonight. We have neighbors who are literally just trying to get through the day without killing themselves because they don't have access to the care they need. Everyone is doing what they can to survive in this country and city, while our government seems to find time and money for anything except helping the people they're supposed to serve. It's a disgrace. For what it's worth, more crimes are committed when people don't have their basic needs met. Pointing more cameras at each other does not make anyone safer. Living in a mass surveillance Big Brother fascist hellscape doesn't make any of us safer. If that makes you feel safer, I think you need to take a serious look at yourself and figure out why before casting votes that are going to harm all of us. Poor people are not your enemy. Greedy corporations who couldn't care less about the well-being of the people who live in this city should be our collective enemy. Regardless of where the money comes from or which company owns the cameras, we don't want this. So do not just postpone this vote, as y'all do sometimes, and hope people forget, because that's cowardly behavior. Vote no on 12R today, and stop wasting our time and tax dollars pushing this shit that no one wants.
Council members, that concludes people who've signed up to speak to this item. Councilmember Adams. Thank you, Ms. Sessions. Thank you.
I have a question about the process for this. And so I'm not exactly sure who to inquire with, because when I first read the item, I thought that DKA was requesting this, and then understood that it was a request from KPD, and that was a request that was coming years after maybe some of the first inquiries from DKA had happened. So my question about process is, if the monies tonight for the cameras are approved, then KPD goes to DKA and asks them, and then does council see that again? Can someone clarify that?
Chief Noel.
Sure, yeah, so we've been in communications with Downtown Knoxville Alliance about this for several years. We've spoken about it with Michelle Hummel and the board. That board is not approved to allocate this money yet. My understanding of what's going to happen is that if the city council votes to accept this today, then they're going to put it forward to their board, and then the board's going to vote whether or not to send the money over to the city of Knoxville. Something has to come first. They both can't, happen simultaneously.
Chief, I think part of it is that if it does get approved, then we'd go through the normal procurement process, or?
No, ma'am. So if this passes today, DKA will then vote on whether to send the money over to us. The vendor that we're going with is already on a state contract, so there's no bid process or anything like that. We're going with off of the state contract. I don't know if that's what you were asking or not.
No, that does help because I think it says that if it is approved this evening and then it is approved by DKA, then KPD would be able to move forward. It would not come back to this body to ask any additional questions.
That's correct. What I will do is, like, once this, if DKA sends the money over, once the installation goes up, locations are selected, we get a new quote, I will let you know, all members of City Council know how many cameras we purchased, what locations they're going to be at. I'll send that back to you all in an email, but I'm not aware of any other procedural vote that you all will have to do on this.
Okay, that helps with process. I have a few other questions, but I think maybe some other folks on council had some as well, so I'm going to hold off and listen first.
Okay, Councilmember Honeycutt?
Yes, thank you. Chief Noel, my understanding is obviously this is not taxpayer money. This is basically our vote tonight is giving you permission to receive money from the Downtown Knoxville Alliance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. So the Downtown Knoxville Alliance is requested these cameras for years. You are currently using temporary cameras when you need them as pop-ups. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, right now, at the City of Knoxville, we do not have any cameras at Market Square Crutch Park. There is a news station that has a web camera that anybody can log in and look to. When we have big events like protests or other events where we need camera coverage, we erect our camera trailers, which has like a telescoping camera tower on them.
Right. So our downtown businesses are asking for these cameras. They're willing to pay for these cameras. We're just giving you permission to accept that and implement their wishes.
That's correct.
Okay. And my understanding is that these cameras are standard security cameras. There's no facial recognition or license plate readers, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I guess the other thing is I understand that they're going to follow the same footage retention, 30-day footage retention that you have in place, and they'll be overseen by the same community organization, Park, the Park will have sort of a similar oversight role that they do today.
The same oversight role they do with everything else.
Okay. Thank you.
And Park has been in our real-time information center and seen everything that we have.
And they have the same oversight role that they will have going forward.
Yes, sir.
That they've had in the past. Okay.
Councilmember Grant?
Thank you, Mayor. And I think my questions, will be, directed towards Chief Noel as well. And I appreciate Councilwoman Adams asking a couple questions that brought light to myself as well. With downtown being in District 6, I just have a few questions in terms of the process. And so us voting beforehand, before the board actually decides, the DKA board decides, that kind of draws some concern on my end just because of the process of it. I would like to see maybe the board meet first and then it's brought to council. In terms of, where these cameras are going to be located, I would like to see that answered before we were to approve these funds. And so with that, it's not that I don't support cameras being needed downtown. I just want to be mindful of the optics of the process. And so because of that, I'm not going to support this tonight. I would like to see it postponed until DKA actually meets, approves it with their board, and then it's brought back in front of council with a little bit more clarity in terms of where these cameras are going to be located, how many we're going to have, just to give us more inclusion in the process. Thank you.
May I respond?
Chief Noel, sure, go ahead.
So just a couple of things. So we've been talking with Downtown Knoxville Alliance about this for a long time. I don't want to say we have their support, but we have their strong support with this. I don't want to project what a vote would look like, but one entity had to go first, and I think they wanted to know that they would be able to donate that money first before they, put this to their board. But so somebody had to go first. We chose to go first, and that's on me. That's the decision that I made. As far as with camera locations, we're looking at. Once we have an old quote that expired, so we have to get, a quote is not going to last forever. So when we get a new quote, we would be looking at 3 to 4 locations in Market Square itself. We would be looking at 2 locations on Market Street so we could see into Crutch Park, and then one location on Gay Street where we could see into the Crutch Park extension, where the Christmas tree goes. They would be on city light poles where we would have access to power. The cameras operate off a cellular network. So I can't give you the exact locations because we need to get the contractor to come out and spec it all out. But that's what you would be looking at in those general locations. And I think that should give you, looking on a map, a pretty good idea of what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
I just wanted to clarify one item. I feel a little uncomfortable not thinking of the Downtown Knoxville Alliance funding as taxpayer dollars, because that's what they are. As it says in our packet, a special assessment, a special tax is paid by property owners within the designated area to be used for certain purposes within the downtown area. And so I just can't see it that way. There's a reason why this system is set up as it is, rather than downtown businesses forming a private club and setting up an investment account together. These dollars should be accountable to the public, and especially when the use that we are exploring, we should take seriously and not consider this simply an agreement to be made between KPD and the Downtown Knoxville Alliance. I also have concerns about this program and feel that clarification is needed, but ultimately I also do not support it. What I've learned through this process is that we do have cameras in place in Market Square, but they're not the kind of cameras that are tied into the real-time information center. I'm worried about the costs that we're taking on, as well as the rights that we could potentially be infringing upon. Market Square, it's become less and less as rules have been implemented on the square, but it is our forum for public speech in many ways. When the community has a concern or wants to speak out about something, it is Market Square where folks gather for their protest, and having our free speech zone monitored 24/7 through this real-time information center, and monitored in ways that we don't have clear information on, because the way that we're seeing these cameras be used around the country is in a predictive policing manner, which makes me very uncomfortable. It is not taking action once you have a warrant. It is not investigating after a crime, potential crime has occurred, but we've seen these cameras be used to monitor and follow and track individuals who may seem suspicious, however you want to define that. And so there are many ways in which these cameras could be used that make me uncomfortable, but especially uncomfortable in such a free speech zone as Market Square. So I definitely would support a postponement so my colleagues can get additional information, but I would like to see us put on the brakes and stop moving full speed ahead with diving into such, an investment in this technology. It seems like every other meeting we're here. So those are my concerns.
Councilmember DeBartoleben.
I think this is a really important discussion that we're having because we're trying to decide how do we want to use this technology in our life. And we're making commitments to each other publicly. So I'm glad that we're having the discussion. A couple clarifications. Chief Noel, you're asking for permission to request this money. Would you be able to put the cameras up without, if you had other funds from somewhere else, without coming to this body and asking for the locations?
If we had money, technically we
Okay.
could, yes. This is also very similar to how we apply for grants. We ask you all for permission to apply for a grant, then we apply for the grant. Many times we don't get those. It really kind of mirrors that process.
Okay. So it really is about the funding. And I had the privilege of serving on the Downtown Knoxville Alliance for 6 years. I was chair for 3 years. I was a part of this discussion. And the Downtown Knoxville Alliance serves three different interests. It serves downtown businesses. It serves people who come downtown to play and work. And it serves the residents who live downtown. And when I was on that board, all three interests asked for these things. It was also during a special time. It was 2020. There was a lot of chaos on Market Square. There was a lot of havoc happening in the Market Square garage. And a lot of this was happening late after night. And so the residents asked, what are some ways that we can do to prevent some of these criminal activities? And then what are some of the ways that we can follow up after a window has been smashed or graffiti has been done or a gun has been found in a park or a mugging is happening on Market Square? And so this has been asked by the residents, the businesses, and visitors who come to Market Square, to our living room. I walked Market Square today, which I often do, and I noticed about a quarter of the businesses have cameras that are Market Square facing already. They have the ability right now to apply to sign up with the real-time center. So those cameras could be activated as it stands. So it's really, it already has the potential to happen. I really appreciate that these cameras are part of a closed system, so that can't be accessed from Houston or from Los Angeles, from Seattle, or from ICE, or from other organizations without having to pull some kind of warrant and go through a process. I appreciate that they don't involve facial recognition. I appreciate that they have a chance during protest to create less of a police presence, because police can just be watching from afar and sense their danger. And so instead of stirring things up, it gives us an opportunity to keep that pressure off. And again, it's an important question, how much we exchange freedom for security. And I think that we can expect, when we go into one of the busiest squares in Knoxville, Tennessee, that there should be some eyes watching. And I think of things that like happened in New Orleans, Boston Marathon, other things where we need opportunities for, one, prevention, because people see that there's a presence, but then two, being able to hold people accountable who commit crime. So, so I am going to vote for this, and I think it's good for Knoxville.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thanks. I have a couple more questions, and I really appreciate all my colleagues, the questions that they've asked and the additional information that's been provided. Building on the question about these cameras already being in place in many of the businesses, and that the RTC could ask for that, how will these cameras, if they're approved, will they be part of a donor network, or does DKA, are they the donor? How does that function?
Chief.
They would donate the money to the city. We would purchase the cameras, and we own those. We own those cameras.
So the feed, that's what I was talking about. The feed is the donation.
Correct. Yes, and they would be just like one of the other 19 other cameras that we either already have up or we're installing. They'll be marked. They'll have a sign saying, City of Knoxville and Knoxville Police Department camera, just like we have now.
Will DKA, I think I know the answer to this, but will DKA have access to that footage since no. It's part of, okay.
Just like our cameras, they're donating us the money to purchase the technology.
Okay. The questions about facial recognition, not being license plate readers, all of that's been covered. How will the department help keep the community informed as the technology gets patches, as it's updated, which is normal in that technology world? How does the community know that?
Sure, that's a great question. We've been very open with what we're doing with the Real-Time Information Center. We've invited numerous people, and you all have been in. We've had numerous, church groups and outside entities have come in. All the camera locations are updated on our website. If something would change dramatically I don't know what, it's a camera. It's some of the cameras are pan, zoom, tilt. Some are some are just fixed, like the one right above your head. If something would dramatically change with the function of that, we would certainly let everyone know. We've been very open about that. I don't anticipate anything changing with this hardware for at least, the next several years. I don't know if that's what you're looking for or not, but it's a camera.
Yeah, it is. And I think it comes from a place of knowing that all of these technologies in our life that we come to rely on, we get software updates, and then we get notices like 5 months later that, there was a button that moved that now, we've done something we didn't really want to do.
Sure.
So it's that kind of, how do we keep up with it, and what's the plan for that? And I'm asking that out of wanting this to be part of the public conversation, because I really do think that the policies that have been posted, these things have been very helpful, and there has been a great effort to try and make sure everyone knows what's going on, and I really appreciate that. So it's good to know that if this moves forward, there would be that kind of constant communication.
And also too, not to get way in the weeds here, but we're buying hardware. We're not buying software here. This is hardware. This is the camera lenses themselves, the case, the cradle points would send the cellular signal back and forth. This is all hardware that we're acquiring.
I just want to articulate that I really appreciate what Councilwoman Parker has said about this being, I think she said the public forum. I think Councilman DeBartolo called it our living room. I think all of that is true. It is very much a place that is special to all Knoxvillians. So it is a difficult conversation. And especially having lived here for a long time and seeing that square go from a place that nobody was to a place that so many people are. So this has been a little bit difficult for me, but I appreciate the dialogue and the answers to the questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further lights on, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
12S is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept a grant award of $250,000 with no required local match from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services to be used to support and enhance law enforcement mental health and wellness act programs.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions? Did anyone second? No. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Parker.
I was surprised to not see staffing listed with such a sizable grant. Could you give me an idea of what the $250,000 would be spent on?
Sure. We already have a wellness coordinator that's paid for by grant that has lapsed, so we would use this to pay for our wellness coordinator. Again, with the amount of money here, the $250,000, this is a 2-year grant, so it would be spread out over 2 years. We brought in a guest speaker a while back, which was a retired deputy chief from Dallas Police Department who, they went through a while back that horrible, shooting incident that they had in Dallas. And we want to, implement a checkpoints program where we check on one another as officers, because we know that stress can really take a toll both mentally and physically on our officers. So that's really what we're looking to do here, is maintain our existing wellness coordinator that's not a city employee, that's on a contract basis, and really build out on our wellness program, our checkpoints program, and our chaplains program.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12T is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept funding from the Downtown Knoxville Alliance in the amount of $10,000 with no required match to purchase equipment and provide care for the Knoxville Police Department's mounted unit.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember Parker?
Yeah, could you help clarified the amount requested, 10,000. Is that the amount that it requires to care for and maintain?
No, it varies. It's around 50,000 total. And when the Downtown Knoxville Alliance, when they bought 2 horses, they told us that every year we could expect to receive some money to just to supplement some of the expenses with the stabling and vet bills and feed and stuff like that. That's what this $10,000 is.
So really, we don't really have money for new cameras because we got these horses to take care of. If we still got 40,000 to pay for, and we're getting 10,000 from the Downtown Knoxville Alliance, it just seems like we still got something to pay for here. This is one of my concerns, is that we are receiving items funded by the Downtown Knoxville Alliance, but it does not necessarily cover future maintenance, whether we're talking about technology or whether we're talking about feeding and taking care of the police department's mounted unit. So anytime a new purchase is made by one of our departments, by KPD, the initial funding attached to it could be nice, but we always have to take into account the future cost. And for this item, I just see an item where we have taken on additional cost for the mounted unit that we didn't have 2 years ago. I'm not, I haven't seen the benefits myself, and I'm not able to support this tonight, but I just wanted to raise the issue that this 10,000 does not cover the full cost of maintaining and providing care. I know we've had to get a new mounted horse since this program was approved. One went off to, one had an illness and had to go off to another to deal with that illness. And I believe that horse was replaced, or maybe we have fewer horses.
It was replaced free of charge by the farm where we purchased it from.
Okay. So I think it's important that we talk about the cost, because some of the costs are being covered, but not all of the costs are being covered. That's my point. I would rather see the Downtown Knoxville Alliance, when they meet, to put money towards maintaining these mounted horses that they have prioritized for the city, rather than a new purchase into cameras that they apparently can't afford, because we need $40,000 additional dollars for these mounted police horses.
Vice Mayor Fugit?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Noel, I assume that you manage a very large budget and that you take into account all the expenses, and you probably took into account the expense for the horses in building your budget. This $10,000 would just be a nice offset to that, but you budget in your budget request for all the expenses that you need. And those were gifted. Many organizations gift things to the government. On school board, they gifted lots of playgrounds that then became the responsibility of the school system. You understood it when you accepted it, and it became part of the budget. So I appreciate Councilwoman Parker's concerns, but I want to assure our citizens that I feel confident that that was taken into account when we agreed to accept the gift, and that the money is always allocated.
Absolutely. If they wouldn't donate this $10,000, we would absolutely have the ability to pay for the care and stabling of these horses. But we are extremely appreciative of DKA for helping us out with that.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion carries 8-1. Did you have your lights on?
Oh, no, I'm just getting ready for the next one.
Next item.
12U is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept grant funding from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services for the fiscal year 2026 School Violence Prevention Program in an amount up to $666,666.67, with a required local match of 25% or $166,666.67, and federal share of 75% or $500,000 to support school safety initiatives in Knox County schools.
Motion made and seconded. Motion to approve has been made and seconded. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. So to your point, Vice Mayor, I was excited for this one to come up next after the last discussion because we have a grant before us. And in our packet, it says that the $166,666.67 match that's required for this grant is not budgeted, and that the city would need to come up with that money in order to accept this grant. So that's another, that $40,000 that's going towards those mounted police is another area that could be applied. You want to tell me you found that money?
This is a joint grant between us and the county.
Yep.
So our portion of this grant is $138,788.43 over 3 years, and our match for that would be $46,194.45. The rest of that money would be is going to the county, and that match is coming from the county.
Even more perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So we have the money right now for this match, that $46,000, but we're choosing to put it towards the Mounted Police Care Program because Downtown Knoxville Alliance only gave us $10,000, and now we have to find an additional $46,000 for this match. Can you tell us about the program? Is it the same program as it last year? Is this the same amount that we are applying for as last year?
So this is a grant that I think we apply for every 3 years, I believe, with the county. Well, this one here, we were awarded it in 2022 for 3 years. We applied unsuccessfully in 23, 24, and 25. This is a 3-year grant. We use our portion of that to train our school resource officers. We are required by state law to provide advanced training for our school resource officers. So we give our 7 SROs and 5 alternates, we use this to pay for their training.
Okay.
And again, that's over 3 years.
So if we don't get the grant again this year, we will pay for the training ourselves?
I'll have to take it out of my training budget, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honeycutt.
Yeah, I think it was great questions. I think you pointed out. So basically, we're having to supply potentially 25% of the money to get 75% back to then reduce, if you get this grant, which would ultimately reduce the taxpayer's burden and/or your budget. Is that correct?
So if we don't, it's correct. If we don't get this grant, I would have to spend
It'll have to
a
come out of your
larger
budget.
portion of my training budget on training my SROs, which means less of our employees would be eligible for training.
And all to support and reduce, all to support school violence prevention.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Grant.
Yeah, my question is just more so, Chief Noel, if you can just kind of give us a clarity, when you talk about school violence prevention program, what does that actually entail? Is it just about the training?
It's our SROs that work in the school. We work closely with the school security officers and Knox County schools to make sure that our high schools have an SRO in them working with the school security to make sure our kids have a safe environment to learn in.
Okay, and as stated previously, just technically, if we're able to receive these funds, these are federal grants, these aren't Well, there's only a small percentage that the city's actually going to be matching.
Yeah, the city match for this over 3 years is $46,194.45.
And is that a total, or is
That's-
that
that's-
46,000 each year?
That's the 3-year match.
3-year match. Okay. Thank you.
And the way all these grants work is it's a reimbursement grant. So we spend the money and then we get reimbursed.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be supporting this.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
13W is an ordinance to amend the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2026, 2027.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
13X is an ordinance to amend the charter of the city of Knoxville, specifically Chapter 412 of the Private Acts of 1923 of the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, entitled An Act to Incorporate the City of Knoxville and Knox County, Tennessee, and define the rights, powers, and liabilities of the same, to fix the boundaries of said municipality and repeal all acts or parts of acts in conflict with this act, and all acts amendatory thereto, by amending Article 7, Section 707B and Section 707C, so as to align the manner of holding elections for members of the City Council with that of the mayor, as provided for in Section 707A, and further providing for the submission of this ordinance to the qualified voters of the City of Knoxville for approval, as provided in Article 11, Section 9 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, there's one person signed up to speak on this item, William Mendoza. If you could come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. You have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Thank you. William Mendoza, 2442 Brown Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. Firstly, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak here today. I come to speak on opposition, right? For the folks that don't know me, I worked in local elections since 2021. Worked as a campaign manager, canvasser, different roles around the city, and have had the greatest honor to be able to work in different local elections here in Knoxville. But the reason why I'm against this is because I believe that it's going to hurt low turnout districts. It's going to hurt District 6. It's going to hurt District 1. It's going to hurt District 3. It's going to hurt District 5. Right? We keep seeing, I've done numbers from the past 5 city council elections where there has been an increase in almost all of them except in 2023 when our mayor was elected in the primary. And then we saw a decrease of 5% from the August to the November election. Every other election, we saw an increase. We saw a 65% increase in 2017, 64% in 2019, a 32% increase, 2021, a 116% increase, and then in 2025, a 153% increase. All right. Obviously, there's other things that are making people go out and vote. Right? There's a sales tax in 2025, and there is a really big elections in a lot of these parts. But last year in 2025, in the primary elections, where the largest amount a district got was in District 4, which was 2,849 votes. And then in the regular election, there was 6,087 votes, right? So it's a huge difference, and most of the districts were like that. It was a huge difference in the primary, right? I understand where this is coming from, but I also believe that not only it's going to affect low turnout districts, but it can even make campaigning more expensive, right? If everyone sees that we can win this in August, more people are going to spend much more money in August, and then if no one wins a 50% plus vote, that means they're going to even have to raise even much more money to compensate the money that they spent in August to make it all the way to November. If it was up to me, I think no one should be getting elected in August. I think it's the duty of people of Knoxville to vote for folks, right? as a candidate, I urge you to think about this not as a candidate, not as someone who ran for office, but as a voter, right? Because if I was a candidate, I would like this too, right? I don't have to campaign all the way to November. But as a voter, do I really want something like this? As a voter, do I want this to happen? I'm more than open for any questions, and I sent an email to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes people signed up to speak to item 13X. Vice Mayor Fugit.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me start by saying that this is not my charter amendment. I brought this as Vice Mayor of the city based on what I heard at our city council retreat right after this fall. No, it's not fall now, this spring. Where the discussion was what are things we want to accomplish, what are things we would like to make better, what would we like to, changes we might want to make. And one of the first things I heard most everyone say at that meeting was to look at, now that we no longer run citywide, should we continue to vote the way we've always voted? So if I could, give a little context. Back in the day, a long time ago, every city council member was elected at large. All 9 seats ran citywide. In the 60s, with the Voting Rights Act, there was worry that that would be discriminatory and not fair representation because one part of the city could dominate elections in other parts of the city. So we needed to have, we don't want all our representatives coming from District 4, or we don't want all our representatives coming from West Knoxville or whatever. So they created 6 districts. People still wanted to vote for all 9 city council people. So the primary was put in place so that each district, only district voters could vote for 2 people who would be put forward in a general election where all citizens in the city of Knoxville were eligible to vote for all 9 council people. 3 districts remained at large all along. Fast forward. The state legislature changed the rule that allowed for it to become, or it said it had to be, district-only voters elect a district representative. 2 years ago, time flies, but I believe it was 2 years ago, a charter amendment was brought forward by this body that combined a lot of things, 3 things, into one charter amendment. One was to create a different at-large regional voting system to try to preserve everybody in the city being able to vote for all representatives. It made at-large seats be able to win like the mayor and like the city and like the city judge and like every municipality in the state of Tennessee that has nonpartisan elections. If you get 50% plus 1, which is a majority vote in the primary, people do not run the same race twice. So that failed. There was another thing in there about breaking a tie, which Ms. Parker rightfully brought to our attention, and that needs to be dealt with too. But that amendment failed. Here we are. We had the first election that 5 of my colleagues sitting here today took part in. In that election, every person sitting at this table finished first place in their district race. 3 people would have not had to run for a second time, but the order did not change. The number of people voted, but whoever finished first is sitting at this table. Some of you were against 1 person, some were 5, and it narrowed the field and 2 people went on. I say all that to say I think intensity about voting matters to people when they know the stakes are higher in an election. The way we have been voting, everybody knows the stakes aren't as high in the primary. You pick two people, and then everybody else got to vote for them. So the general election was when you decided who was the winner. All this proposal is to say, now that that's not the case, is it easier on the electorate? Is it less expensive for the city to run an election? And does it reduce voter fatigue because city residents vote every year for something? And it can create fatigue the more you vote. I will say for all city residents who have ever elected a school board member prior to them changing to the partisan races they are now, they used to be nonpartisan. I ran that way, and it was always, if you won in the primary with 50% plus one, you were the school board representative. You did not have to run a second time. So city voters have been doing that for their school board members forever, until recently. Now they're partisan primaries. This is not a radical thought. This is not disenfranchising. When I ran and I knew I could win in the primary, that's what you told people. People understood, get out and vote in the primary because that can decide this election. If you didn't win, you asked people to keep going. I just cannot think of a reason that we would be different than any other municipality in the state of Tennessee that has nonpartisan elections and requires someone who won a majority in the primary to have to continue to run. So I heard this is apparently what most everybody, I got the sense, thought of. I told you I would bring this on council's behalf, and it's here for your consideration. And in the end, it's the voters that decide. But I think it is a fair question because the way we used to vote and the statistics from the way we used to vote are not apples to apples comparisons, because the stakes were always higher in the general because that was the final vote. And this way, the final vote could be as early as the primary. There are lots more facts, but I'd like to hear from some other people.
Thank you. Councilmember Honeycutt.
Thank you. I believe elections should be simple, fair, and easy for voters to understand. Right now, Knoxville already uses a majority vote rule for mayor and municipal judges. If a candidate earns more than half of the vote in the primary, that candidate is elected. But under our current charter, a city council candidate can earn that same majority and still be required to run again. This ordinance applies the same common sense rule to city council elections. If a candidate earns more than half of the vote, that candidate is elected. If no one earns a majority, the top two move on and voters decide the race in a regular election just as they do today. This does not eliminate second elections when they are needed. It simply avoids requiring one when voters have already made a clear majority decision. This will be simpler for voters, fairer for candidates, and create a cleaner, more cost-effective election process. Tonight is only the first step, and that's the most important part, because ultimately, if this passes, Knoxville voters will have the final say this fall. I support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a lot written down to say. Kind of want to address some of the things that have already been said. It's without a doubt that this is going to hurt District 6 voters. Without a doubt. Voter fatigue was mentioned, right? I don't see how that's possible when we have less than 20% of registered voters voting. Voter turnout is down. It just is. And I think just this process and how we've gone about it thus far, to me, doesn't benefit the community. Since being here on council, you're learning how things are, you're learning what processes are, you're learning what task force are out there. And in doing that, one of the things that I, looked into when this particular ordinance was brought to me was the rules of procedure in the charter review task force that was just created, right? It was established by a resolution of City Council on January 7th, 2025, so a little over a year ago. The mission of that task force is to review the Knoxville City Code, Chapter 7.5, any articles, rules of procedure, and possibly make any recommendations for amendments to the rules. Another task is to consider and possibly make any recommendation for the establishment of a charter review committee for future charter considerations. And so we have a task force in place for this very thing that wasn't utilized, right? In terms of this particular ordinance, to me, 50+1 in a primary, I also think about all the potential outcomes, right? There's different outcomes that you could have. 50+1, you could have a 48, right? Second place, you could have a 2% third place, right? That third place person can endorse that second place person. And so to me, 50+1 isn't enough. When you look at voter turnout, voter turnout is low. People aren't voting, right? And so I think we have a job before us before we make a change like this to get out here and encourage more people to participate in the electoral process. It's challenging, right? I know for the new 5 of us, I know when I was out campaigning, people didn't understand that you could vote district only, right? This was the first election cycle where you voted only pertaining to your district, which was new for everybody. And so here we are not even a year later, throwing in another change. The timing of it, right? We have a county election here in the next couple of days, right? So everyone's political attention is really, directed towards that. And so bringing the ordinance of this stature right now, the timing of it to me draws concern. The threshold, I think, is absurd. I understand, we had situations up here where it was almost 80-20, right, with the same 2 individuals. And so I get saving time, saving money when it comes to that. And maybe even increasing the threshold, right? But I think 50+1, we're going to see a fluctuation of recalls, right? People are going to question the votes, right, when it's that close. And just given the historic background of District 6, we have lower voter turnout. And I would like an opportunity for myself as a District 6 representative to spend the next few years trying to increase that and inspire people to get out here and turn out to vote. How we vote for mayor and how we vote for municipal court judge, that was set in place in 1990. Since then, 6 out of our 9 mayors have won outright in the primary. Mayor Buchanan, when we look at the 2023 mayoral primary, you received a total of 9,500 votes, which was 57.5%. But that was less than 10% of registered voters elected our mayor. So we have to tighten things up and get the voter turnout before we can support an ordinance like this. And so I'm asking you guys not to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Councilmember Helsley.
Did you want to go?
No,
Okay.
I've already spoken. I'm last.
Well, everybody's already said most of what I had to say, but I would, to election turnout, I hate to admit I'm the oldest person on this body, and I have been working on election turnout since I was 19 years old. You're not going to change it. People are going to vote, and if the ones that are not going to vote, you're never going to get them out. That's just the way it works. So I don't think turnout's going to change no matter how this happens. I think voter fatigue is a real thing, but also from the perspective of the ones of us running for office, that we're asking for money to run another 3 months, and this is coming out of constituents' pockets, right? So it's expensive. And a majority is a majority, and as Vice Mayor Fugit already said, every municipality in this state does a 50% plus one. It doesn't make sense if you win to have to win again. Like, I don't understand that at all. But anyway, everything's pretty much been all said, but I do support this amendment.
Let's see, Council Member Lloyd.
Yes, I think that that's going to affect voter turnout in my district as well. But to me, the more important thing there is that we lose the amount of time between the primary and the general election to still discover things about the candidates. As we've just gone through the current election cycle with the county, during this election cycle, during the campaign, we had in the sheriff's race, one candidate passed away. After the primary, 2 candidates were indicted. And one county commission candidate, we found that person didn't pay their income tax. I don't want to lose that discovery time between primary and general election. Therefore, I really can't support this as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Adams.
I think the only point that I disagree with that Councilwoman Helsley made is the optimism in terms of getting more people out to vote. And I mean, I hear you because you've been in it and working for it for a long time and seen that. But I think I am very hopeful. And I think that there's been a lot of good work done over the past decade that is moving people to be more engaged, to speak up, to vote more. And I really feel very good about that and want to keep working for it. The reason I am supporting this is because I do think that it removes some of the confusion. I remember people saying, oh, well, if you get 50% plus one, then, you're done. It's like, no, you're not. And so a lot of people do think that these district races align with already the mayor's race, the judge's race, and the other races that adhere to that. So there's a lot of confusion. And if there can be that continued push for people to get out and vote and understanding the importance of a primary, that is casting a really important vote and that you are making a big difference there, I think that helps with voter turnout. And then if there are races that are decided in that 50% plus one, then the focus, whether it be volunteer time, whether it's constituents' donations, whether it's other candidates, can go towards the races that actually are more competitive and help the discovery there. So there are a lot of reasons that I'm supporting this, but I did want to lead with the fact that I think that we've covered good ground in terms of getting people to vote more, and I'm excited about being able to do more of that.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I obviously have another proposal coming up next, and I won't go into that right now, but I wanted to discuss why I was not able to support this proposal. First, I was really disappointed after all of the work that we put into developing language to address a tiebreaker, that language wasn't included in this proposal. And that's a really important piece to me. So that's part of the reason for my separate proposal. The second part of it is, as the Vice Mayor explained, when we had this discussion previously on council, the charter amendment that went forward had the 3 components to it. One was the regional at-large voting system, and that's the only piece that I changed in my ordinance that's on the agenda tonight is that it includes language about district-only elections, and then the two other are the tiebreaker, and then at the time we were discussing applying the rule, the 50+1 rule, to at-large elections because they occur in the same year as mayor and municipal judge to make those less confusing, and also that it was a citywide election rather than a district-only election. Since then, I've talked to some constituents who've raised concerns about additional candidates being able to win in August in the primary. And there's been a lot of focus on district-only elections being able to produce a winner in the primary. But I also heard concern about at-large members being included in the 50+1 rule. And what came to mind for me is my experience as a write-in candidate. Not only did I have the experience of a tie during the election, but I also experienced the contemplation of what comes next. And in our process, we have that ability after a primary concludes that individuals may decide to run as a write-in. And when we allow a candidate to win in the primary, we take away that opportunity for write-in candidates for all city council races. So that was one thing that stuck with me, and the reason why I brought two potential amendments to my proposal. And I also wanted to address the voter turnout piece, because I do think that increasing voter turnout should be a priority of ours, and I've heard lots of us talk about how we want to see that improved and are working towards that. And I would just say that, when I first started considering running for city council, and I went to a community meeting where Moja Abdul-Hahad was present, it was his words and informing the people there that council members were being elected with just a couple of hundred votes. And now we are seeing actually thousands of people in the primary. So I think we've seen improvement. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but based on my memory, I think we are seeing improvement, and we need to continue moving towards strengthening our elections, encouraging more voters to turn out, and showing that that we are in agreement that it should be the voters who select their representatives, and not adopt rules that make it seem like we might be trying to ensure our friends can be here on council rather than who the voters choose. So those are my three reasons that I wasn't able to support this proposal.
Councilmember DeBartoleben.
Thank you. So when this came out, I signed on as a co-signer for this. And my first thought was when I was running just 10 months ago, was that halfway through the primary, did a good job, won the primary, and now I had to go out and ask more people, more friends for money. And we get asked for a lot of money for a lot of reasons, for a lot of good causes. So that was my first thought to support this. And my second thought was the fact that district only, I knocked on doors, the same doors 2, 3, sometimes 4 times. And they're like, "You're back." I'm like, "Yes, because you haven't voted yet." But anyway, so that was my first reason. And then like things that we experience on city council, I had conversations, I sat and thought about it. And so I wrestled. And I wrestled with the things that you brought up, Councilman Grant and Councilman Lloyd, about disenfranchisement, especially of our districts that already have lower voting turnout. And I became concerned about that. in the process, my education as a candidate informed who I am sitting here today, and I think that's true of a lot of you. We got to know our neighbors, we got to understand our districts, we had to think about issues. And so I thought, well, if we cut that short, 2 months, are we losing something? And then I do think my race was different because I ended up with only 2 the first time. Several of you had 3 or 4 or 5 running against you, and I do think the conversation changes when you get down to 2 candidates instead of when there's 3 or 5. And so I have wrestled with this all week, and I'm proud to wrestle with it. And so I dug into some things that I heard tonight. And one is that Chattanooga, Nashville, and Memphis, nonpartisan races, they don't call it a primary and a general. They call it the 50+1, and then they call it a runoff if you don't get past that. And that's what they have done. And the most recent to change was Memphis 2 years ago in 2024, and went to the voters on their ordinance, and it passed 131,851 to 32,222. So the people of Memphis chose that on the ballot. And so that really was wrestling with that, thinking about our peer cities and how they vote in these elections. I also am affected, Vice Mayor Fugit, by what you said, that intensity in an election matters when people know the stakes are higher. And I think that's true. We saw that in the sales tax that made it onto the ballot in the vote, that there was a lot of conversation about it, and a lot of people went to vote because they felt strongly one way or another about it. And so I do think intensity matters. It's a tough one for me, and I would like to let the people decide. So I'm going to vote yes for this.
Vice Mayor Fugit.
Thank you. Mayor, I just want to address a couple of things I heard. Councilman Grant, you are correct that we did have a committee talk about putting a charter review in process, and that will happen. We also made sure when we did that it never ever precludes an elected council member from bringing any kind of proposed charter change forward. The review is just to make sure that it always is looked at on a regular basis, and we will talk about that. As for the timing of this, first of all, election season is about to start for city council candidates that are going to replace me, Councilman Thomas, and Councilwoman Parker. We are all term limited. I think it's fair for people who are beginning to think about running to have an idea of if it was going to change. Wanted to bring that forward now. But more importantly, and I can ask our council attorney, Mr. Frost, to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this has to go on a ballot with a gubernatorial or a presidential race.
That's correct. I conferred with Mr. Swanson earlier this evening.
And so that's why the time is short. That's why if we're going to put it on the ballot, it will be now or 2 years from now, it has to be on those cycles. Never, it can't just be on a city election. It has to be on one which will drive more turnout because it will be on the November ballot. And so lots of citizens in the city will be voting in the gubernatorial election and the state races, and it will be widely vetted by our community.
Councilmember Helsley?
Just a couple things. I don't want Councilwoman Adams to think that I'm forever hopeful. I just haven't seen a whole lot of change and I've knocked doors through this whole cycle for county candidates, and quite honestly, we've hit the same doors like 4 times, and they still haven't voted. So, and we tell them, if you vote, we won't come back. You don't ever have to see us again. We won't text you, we won't send you any mailers, but they still don't vote. But just lastly, I think the voter turnout, no matter whether it's what you call a primary or a general, it follows the stakes of what's on the ballot. So once people realize that this is where this happens, then they're going to vote. If they vote in the general, Now, I don't know about the people he's trying to find who's not voting, but if you vote, you're going to know to vote in whatever month it might be. So that was just all I was going to add. Thank you.
Councilmember Grant. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Thomas hasn't had a chance to speak, so, yeah. Mr.
Yeah,
Thomas,
I've
sorry.
listened to a lot of the points that were made, and all of them were really, really good. I definitely lean toward thinking that the change for 50+1 would be a positive thing. But there are some really good points that are made on the other side. So I'm going to vote for it mainly because, as Councilperson Dave Berladen said, I think it's let the people decide. And I think the debate between now and the charter vote, I think that will be good in itself. So excellent points made. Very valid reasons given. But the bottom line is, I think in this case, I do lean toward thinking this is the best way to go, but I'm comfortable in voting for it, not knowing that this is the final vote, but it'll be left up to the people. So thank you.
Councilmember Grant.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Vice Mayor Fugit, for just that clarification in terms of the timing. So I definitely appreciate that. Again, I try to look at the grand scheme of things. Obviously, I can only go based off the data, the numbers, my experience in my campaign, having worked other campaigns. This is tough. And to be able to have that period of time where we are going to give Knoxville residents an opportunity to make that decision, I do think that's a great thing. I just find this very, 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 very challenging to be able to support in this time. And I'm not going to support it as a voter, right? I'll go ahead on the record and say that now because I know the impact it's going to have. I do know. And we'll see when that time comes. But I definitely appreciate the amount of effort, time, everything that was said today. I got a lot of clarity just with some of the things that were just said here recently. But I mean, it's up to the hands of the people. Thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
I wanted to say I do agree with what Councilwoman Helsley said about the intensity of the things on the ballot. That's when you see the turnout because it's when people really understand the stakes. That's when they come out. And I think that this is the step to help people understand the importance of the primary, whether you call it a primary or a 50% plus one, either nomenclature. When people start to understand this is when I can really make a difference, then you start to see that turnout go up at that stage. But I also concur that this is step one, and then we get to let the voters decide how they feel.
Vice Mayor Fugit.
I was just going to say, the other point that was made that I did not answer back is, I agree with Councilwoman Parker that the tie vote we need to figure out a way to do the tie. The reason I didn't put this in is because my experience is the more things that are in a charter amendment, the more confusing it is. I think there is a very valid point to have a charter amendment about do we go to 50+1 as an option, basically an election and a runoff or a primary and a general. But I do think it's worth consideration of what Councilwoman Parker is talking about is that best in another separate charter amendment to deal with a tie that then voters also get an opportunity to speak to.
Councilmember Parker.
That's part of what I wanted to talk about because the last time we had to propose charter amendments, it was actually suggested by the attorneys that both could go on the ballot. But at the time, we did do some work to structure the language in a way that would allow for that. And so I imagine there would maybe need to be some changes, but I would love to hear from the attorneys on that item. Actually, let me ask that before I go into my other questions.
What's your question exactly? About this item or your charter proposal?
The question is, can both charter amendments be passed tonight and appear on the ballot?
Mr. Frost or Mr.
Yes.
Swanson? Yeah.
Yes, okay. I kind of forgot my other question. Trying to remember really quickly. I don't think it's going to come to me.
Councilmember Grant?
Yeah, I just got a quick question for clarity. We put it on a ballot, the voters decide, and it doesn't pass. Where are we? Are we bringing this back in another 2 years? What's the process?
Vice Mayor?
Councilman Grant, it's defeated until somebody wants to bring it back. It's never to be heard from again unless another council member at some point brings a charter amendment or the Charter Review Committee, when we establish that, give it the charge to look at these things. You convene a Charter Review Committee and you have to give it a charge and tell it some things you might want it to look at, or just tell it the work to do. So the Charter Review Committee could, at any time that it convenes, whatever cycle that we choose to put it on, they can look at it any time. Council members themselves can always bring proposed charter changes at any time. As an elected official, you can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And the mayor can as well. The mayor can propose charter amendments. So any elected official, the city of Knoxville, with the exception of, I assume, the judge, could propose a charter amendment. But you don't have to tell me. Let's not give him any ideas. But I think that's the answer to that.
For the record, I have no plans to do.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I asked that question, because, you know, even when you talk about voter turnout, I think a lot of that has to do with how we govern. When I talk to people, they feel like we're just going to do what we want to do up here anyway, right? And that goes into lack of participation. And so once we put this on a ballot and voters decide, you know, whether they want it, but if they say they don't, then every 2 years, are we just going to keep putting it in front of them until we get what we want, in a sense?
Okay, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
No, it's whoever's sitting here. I'm gone. This benefits me not at all. It doesn't hurt me at all. I questioned from the very beginning when I ran at large why a mayor and a judge and the 3 at-large representatives who ran the exact same race citywide, we could not win the same way they could win. I thought it as a human being. I never took action on it because I never thought it would be right to bring something that I could personally benefit from if I chose to run for reelection. This is my last opportunity to bring forward what I heard fellow council members say when we first got together was to look at this. So I brought a charter amendment forward to look at this. If we get enough votes to put it on the ballot, then the citizens can decide. But it is worth a community debate because our elections have been changed by the state legislature and we've been having to respond. So what we've always done doesn't quite feel the same anymore.
Mr. Swanson had something to clarify.
Yeah, I want to clarify my answer to Councilmember Parker, because maybe I didn't completely understand the question. I thought I did. The question that I thought I was answering was, can we put both the questions that Vice Mayor Fugit has put on the agenda and the tiebreaker, can they both go on the agenda, separate items? And the answer to that is yes. If you put something else into a second one that would be in conflict with this one, then the answer is no, because voters might vote for both of them, and that would be unmanageable. So it would have to be separate questions, not questions that conflict with each other. Does that help clear it up or make it more murky?
It clears it up to some degree.
Please just hit your mic again. Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's working now.
Okay.
We just
Would
have
you just
such
start the clock for
a
her?
small amount of time to reconcile this. So that's a little frustrating. But what I put my light on for, and what I wanted to state was that under our previous system, when individuals would run in their district in the primary and then run citywide for the regular general election, I heard over and over again, especially as someone who's tried to recruit individuals to run for office, that individuals did not feel that they could win. They felt that they could win an election in their district, but they didn't feel they could win it citywide. They didn't feel like they could raise the money. The people who they would be running against had a lot more experience, a lot more money, and so people didn't even enter the race. Now I'm hearing just in the few weeks we've been looking at this, I'm hearing that about this system, that if council candidates were able to win in the primary with 50+1, there are some folks who've told me they would never have even run for office. And so in some of those situations, it's because they know they don't have the money, they're not a part of the establishment, so they're probably not going to win their election their first time out. But being a part of that election allows them to be a part of the debates, possibly shift the conversation, and a lot of us who are running, who might represent a more minority voice in the community, that is our way to get issues on the table to talk about, even when you don't have the political power to win a seat on council. So that was another thing that came to mind with this proposal, is that I do worry about what candidates will be discouraged from running because they know the establishment's going to put forward candidates that have all of the usual donors. I didn't get those usual donors, so I know about y'all's usual donors that show up every election. They can give you $20,000 easily, and you've got a clear path to victory, whereas the smaller folks, the new voices, the new leaders, those who haven't established themselves as much yet, may be intimidated out of the process altogether. That's what we experience with our at-large system, and I worry that that will happen under this system. But I also believe this will be voted down by the voters, because the folks that I'm hearing from who are opposed to it are the same people who are opposed to the sales tax increase. It's the same coalition of people, and they're ready to shoot this down, just like they did the sales tax proposal. So I hear y'all. That's exactly what was said 2 years ago. I want to see what the voters say. Let's send it to the voters. We actually have the ability to talk to voters before we put things on the ballot and get a sense of what the community is thinking and feeling. And what I've heard is no excitement and support for this proposal. I've only heard questions and concerns. And so maybe y'all have heard different. We all have different conversations. Maybe y'all have heard different. All I've heard is questions and concerns. And I think it is a part of our due diligence to listen to that ahead of time before we spend the thousands of dollars to put this on the ballot. But it does seem like the support is there. What I would ask is that we allow some time tonight to work through my proposal so that we can put something forth to the voters that does allow them to vote both on the issue of the 50+1 rule and also on the issue of the tiebreaker. That's my ask this evening.
Councilmember Honeycutt.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's perspective. I just wanted to offer my own rebuttal to Councilwoman Parker's statement. everyone I have talked to thinks that this is a great idea and that it is just common sense that the city council elections should match the mayor and municipal judge elections. And it will make it simpler for the voter to understand and hopefully then encourage them to turn out. It will make it simpler and easier for people to run. And it will be cost effective for everybody involved. So it will be an interesting debate. I'm happy to turn this over to the city voters to decide, but I did want to reiterate that I think that there has been overwhelming support for this, and it will be favorably received, but we'll see what the voters decide. Thank you.
Councilmember Helsley? Oh, Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, well, the constituents that have reached out to me are between the views of Mr. Honeycutt and between the views of Ms. Parker. So with that said, I will stand with putting it on the ballot, and let's see what happens.
Okay, seeing no further lights on, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-3. Is that correct? Okay, motion carries. What's that?
May I be recognized?
Yes, please, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, can we take, I'm the Vice Mayor, I'm not addressing myself. Mayor, may we take a recess to about 15 minutes to allow?
15?
Well, Councilwoman Parker, I think, wanted to work on some changes or tonight. Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to?
In real time during the meeting.
Okay, well, then can we take a 10-minute break?
Okay, the 10-minute break.
A health and safety 10-minute break?
Just do whatever that time you want. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I also messed up. Happy birthday tomorrow, Matthew.
Okay, we'll be back at 8:06, please. Okay, council members, it's 11 minutes after our 10-minute recess started, so we'll go ahead and reconvene and have Mr. Johnson start by reading the next agenda item, please.
13Y is an ordinance to amend the Charter of the City of Knoxville, specifically Chapter 412 of the Private Acts of 1923 of the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, entitled An Act to Incorporate the City of Knoxville and Knox County, Tennessee, and define the rights, powers, and liabilities of the same, to fix the boundaries of said municipality, and repeal all acts or parts of acts in conflict with this act, and all acts amendatory thereto, by amending Article 7, Sections 707A, B, and C, so as to reflect the process for primary and regular elections of council members implemented in 2025 to be consistent with Public Chapter 391 Acts of 2023, including establishing by charter that only voters within the city district shall vote in a council district election rather than all city voters electing district candidates in the regular election, and establishing that at-large candidates may be elected in the primary with a majority of the votes rather than requiring the election of at-large candidates in the regular election, and changing the candidates placed on the regular election ballot to candidates receiving the two highest number of votes in the primary rather than the two candidates with the highest number of votes, and further providing for the submission of this ordinance to the qualified voters of the City of Knoxville for approval as provided in Article 11, Section 9 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve. Is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Councilmember Parker.
Okay, so following our last vote, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to amend the item on our agenda with the handout that you all have received that's labeled Amendment Number 2, so that we can discuss this item tonight. So I'm making a motion to amend. I will need a second.
Okay.
Is that the proper motion?
So you're making a motion to amend, and the amendment that you're making is contained on these sheets of paper?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Parker's made this motion to amend. Is there a second to this amendment, motion to amend? Okay, would you want to describe the amendment before they vote?
Okay, so my original proposal contained the 3 parts. One deals with the district-only elections. The second piece was the tiebreaker language, and then the third piece was applying the 50+1 rule to at-large elections. Now that Vice Mayor Fuget's proposal has been approved, we are tasked with considering a proposal that would not conflict with the Vice Mayor's proposal. And so amendment number 2 only has the language pertaining to a tiebreaker, and I can read through that language if you all would like. It's the same language that was in the original proposal. And it has language about the district-only elections, which I've learned is not even necessary to be in there, but I like for the voters to know exactly what changes are being made to the charter. And so that's why that language is included in there. And so I think it's also important to clarify that the tiebreaker language applies to all city elections. And so in our charter, under Section 707 of Article 7, manner of holding elections, there are 4 parts. The first part is mayor. Second part is council district elections. Third part is at-large council elections. And the final part is for municipal judge. The Part D, Section D, only states that the manner in which the municipal judge is elected is the same as how the mayor is elected. And so that's why you only see the 3 sections with suggested changes to it, because any changes to the process for the mayor impacts the process for the municipal judge. And so the language that would be in the charter would have the original language, except, obviously if the voters vote for the 50+1 rule, that will change language within these sections. But the language that has been added for the tiebreaker is the language: provided, however, if more than one candidate receives the highest number of votes in the primary election, then only those candidates receiving the highest number of votes shall be placed on the regular election ballot. If proceeding to the regular election and only the candidate receives the highest number of votes and more than one candidate receives the second highest number of votes in the primary election, then the candidate receiving the highest number of votes and all of those candidates receiving the second highest number of votes shall be placed on the regular election ballot. That language was added to Section A, Section B, and Section C to apply to mayor, city council elections, and municipal judge. All other language is the same. So we can open it up for discussion. That's my overview.
Right now, what's on the floor is the amendment.
Yes.
Yeah. So any discussions on the amendment that Councilmember Parker is proposing? Councilmember Parker, do you have your light on? Do you want to add anything else? You still have a few minutes as the maker of the
Well,
motion.
I don't know if Attorney Swanson wants to say anything, because he's had a chance to review the language in this amendment to, if there are any changes needed to ensure there's no conflict with the previous ordinance.
I read more slowly than I used to. And I just got this, but I tried to read it very, very carefully during the break. And as best I can tell, this just contains language about the tiebreaker portion of it and does not contain language that would conflict with the previously adopted proposed charter amendment.
Councilmember Honeycutt on the amendment.
On the amendment to the ordinance, right?
That's what's on the floor
So,
right now.
I apologize. I know we're working through this on the fly, which I appreciate, and I'm trying to follow you. Will you go? But I'm a little confused. So will you go through quickly what language is still remaining again? Like what we're actually, or what are we voting on for the changes? That's all that's remaining is the tiebreaker vote. So everything else comes off. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially, in sort of layman's terms, what happens if there's a tie in the second place vote, everybody in that tie gets included on the ballot.
Oh, okay.
So you'll have 3, possibly 4. That would be really extraordinary to have 4, but possibly 3 people, most likely 3 people on the. If you have a tie for the second place. If it's a tie for first place, then just the 2 who tied for first place go on the ballot. But if it's a tie for second place, then you're going to have 3 on the ballot because you got the 2 that tied for second place and the highest place. Did I say that right?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Councilmember Thomas and then Adams.
Yes, a question. Suppose that we have a tie for second place and all 3 go to the general. What happens if in the general no one gets a majority?
It says the highest number of votes wins that race. Right.
What would happen with this amendment?
Yeah, what would happen now is if there's a tie for second place, then it's up to city council to decide who that second place finisher is. The state statute also provides for the potential for a runoff, but practically that won't work. When the primary race is over, there's just not time to do a runoff race and then a general election. So what you're going to have is you're going to have city council selecting one of the 2 tied candidates to run in the general race.
I think you could turn it on now. It's working again.
Great. That is what would happen now. And then the amendment is to say that there would be 3 people in the general election. The person who had won the most votes and then the 2 second place individuals who had tied.
Councilmember Adams, just as I think, Ms. Parker can remember this more in more detail than me, but I can't remember the year, 2017, the 4th District, Lauren Ryder came in first, and Ms. Parker and Harry Tyndall tied for second. And at the time, the council could have flipped a coin, but they had a discussion and just, I believe, voted to pick Mr. Tyndall as the person to go on the ballot. That was their decision at the time. I wasn't involved at all. Ms. Parker then did a write-in campaign, and so she was on a write-in. Mr. Tyndall and Ms. Ryder were on the ballot, and Lauren Ryder came in first in the general after also being in first in the primary. So that's how it worked at that time, and I think also at that time it was still the primary it was a district race that went citywide at the time. So, that wouldn't happen anymore.
And in everyone's recollection, how many times has this happened?
I think that's the only time in recent history. Ms. Parker, do you know otherwise of a tie in city elections?
I think the example I was given was maybe a county election in the 80s.
When?
What, like in the last 30, 40 years, or like?
In the 80s.
In the 80s, okay.
I can't remember. When the tie happened, it was brought to my attention at that point about when it had happened before, but I didn't commit it to memory who it was or what had happened exactly.
Okay, so the Vice Mayor Fugit.
Thank you. So clarifying question, just to make sure everybody understood. If if the voters were to assume that you could win at 50+1, then there wouldn't be a second place. But if the 50+1, if no one got 50% and you had a first place and two people tied for second, they would all run. And even if no one got 50%, that time, the person who came in first would be the winner. The plurality is what I believe Mr. Swanson is making point. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that's what Mr. Thomas was addressing too. So that's how it would work if it all shook out the same.
But I know we're jumping in,
But the likelihood of that
Vice
happening is
Mayor.
very rare.
Councilmember Honeycutt.
So just to clarify, I think on the earlier question, so it sounds like in the last, let's call it 50 years, we know this has happened once, may have happened twice in all the elections we've had in the last 50 years. So that we're potentially talking about putting something on the ballot for the voters that may or may not confuse our earlier ordinance to address something that has happened one, maybe two times in the last 50 years. Okay. Then my other second question on that is I guess if City Council has the decision currently, could City Council decide that both candidates get on the ballot, or do they have to pick? Does that make sense? So like currently, you're saying if there is a tie, it's up to City Council to decide. If there is a tie, which again has happened once, maybe twice in the last 50 years, it's up to City Council to decide who of that tie goes forward. Can City Council decide that both candidates go, therefore there being three in the general?
No,
Okay, so they have to pick
they
one.
have to pick.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, a couple of concerns I have about the amendment is, one, you would have a city council member picked possibly without a majority of the voters. It would only be a plurality. So if you let three people in the race, you'd have a situation where the one with the highest number of votes won, but they wouldn't necessarily get the majority of the votes. I don't know that that's a horrible thing, but it raises questions about whether democracy actually wins, because then some voters would say, well, if you eliminated one of that one and then had a runoff, then it would be clearer about which candidate we wanted, you know. So that's one question I have. Then the other thing is just a matter of confusion and what voters can clearly maybe decide. So I'm not necessarily against the new system to break a tie, but I'm wondering if we put both of them in the same charter amendment, people might be really confused. So I would feel more comfortable if we did one and then at a later date did another one. So it'd be just a pure bifurcation, and you could debate each one differently. The voters could decide each one differently, and I think understand it better. I think making two changes in the same charter amendment is going to be problematic for the voters.
Councilmember Parker.
Well, I did want to clarify that this would not go into the same charter amendment. This would be a separate charter amendment, and it's similar to what we did 2 years ago when, you know, Councilmember Thomas had a charter amendment proposal that was put on the ballot, and Councilmember Roberto had a charter amendment proposal that was put on the ballot. And we were okay with that, and people were not confused. They voted for what they wanted to approve, and they voted against what they didn't approve of. And so I think that, especially since we've gone through this recently, that Knoxville voters would be able to, you know, weigh and make a decision on these two separate proposals. And I think that we're doing our due diligence tonight to ensure that these do not conflict with each other. So, you know, the voters do not have to decide between A or B. They can choose A and B. So I think it's a pretty straightforward process. Hopefully, and it's been an issue that we've discussed and debated since 2022, and we made a lot of progress on it. Much of this language, or all of this language, really came from MTAS, who developed this language and helping us figure out how to address the tiebreaker issue. And so I feel like we have a good proposal to bring forward to voters. The language around a tiebreaker would not come into play unless a tie happens. You know, for the most part, folks will read that the candidates with the two highest votes will move forward, and that will make sense. The provided, however, is in those, as you all have stated, very rare situations, but it gives us a solution that prevents another city council from having to make that vote and that decision themselves. And I think it is healthier for our local election. I can tell you that there's been, you know, the impact of the tie from 2017 is something that has lingered almost 10 years later. And so I can tell you it not only impacts the candidates involved, it impacts the voters who, you know, feel disenfranchised when they're not able to vote for their representative, but are now watching a process where city council members are voting for who's going to go on the ballot. If we are able to identify the language that would prevent that situation again, even if it's only happened once, I would hope we would be able to learn from that situation and incorporate those lessons, you know, into legislation moving forward. And this is an opportunity to address that system and put a new system in place that I feel like voters will appreciate and have more trust in than what currently is in place.
Councilmember Grant?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I have a clear understanding of what this amendment entails if we, you know, support it here tonight. And so, just to simplify, come November, the ballot is created. We'll be voting on the 50+1, and then there will also be on the ballot the tiebreaker for voters to decide, correct? Two separate questions. I don't think that's too much. I think if this is something that we're going to be considering in the future anyway, whether it happens this year or whether it happens 2 years from now, I think if we're going to make these changes and if we're going to make a change that takes away council members voting on a tiebreaker, then the same argument that was made for the last ordinance that we just discussed, I think should be made for this one. Let's just let the voters decide. I think that's important. You know, being in a position to where you would have council members possibly choose who's sitting next to them. I look at the optics of that from a constituent point of view. When you talk about nepotism, conflict of interest, whatever it may be, I don't want voters thinking that I'm choosing my buddy or I'm choosing, someone that I like or I've had dealings with personally to move further along in the ballot. And so there's an opportunity for voters to decide whether there's a runoff or whether council members will continue to have the privilege to, vote on that tiebreaker. Then I think it would be best in terms of remaining consistent to give voters that opportunity come November. And so with that, I am going to support this amendment to add that to the ballot come November. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams?
Thank you. I after having seen how difficult it can be to help folks understand different things when there are items on a ballot that aren't just, are you voting for this person or that person, like trying to explain it. Once it goes through, pardon my saying this, but the legalese machine, and then it gets onto the ballot, it can be very confusing. So having two of those does worry me slightly. But the question I have about this one, because I think it was helpful in our discussion with the previous amendment, is what other cities do in this regard. Does anyone have that at their fingertips to know?
I know what the state does, because I was able to find that one, and that is the Election Commission breaks the tie.
Wow.
So
Interesting. So I might like to know what other cities do in addition to the state. But also, am I correct that with the appointment process, when someone on council leaves their seat for whatever reason, the process is to fill that seat. There's not a new election held. There is a decision made by the sitting council from the people who step forward and say they are interested, or people who've been nominated. They have to pick who will be their colleague. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Vice Mayor.
I think it's council decides how they want to choose, and oftentimes it's that they take.
Mr. Swanson, maybe he.
I think I lived
There
through
are
it.
provisions in the charter that
I lived
provides for
through
when
it.
somebody leaves council before their term is done. It depends on when it happens.
In terms of how much is left?
How much time is left in the term. You either have a whole new election process or there is an appointment process. If it's a fairly short period of time, it's an appointment process. If it's a long period of time, then you just run a regular election again. So
Okay.
that's how that happens. I can also respond to your question about how other cities do it, but in order to answer it, I'm going to complicate this thing even more. Because there is.
You wouldn't be worth your law.
You're right. There is a state law that provides for how you break ties, and it applies to municipal elections. It applies for the state. In the state elections, it says the State Election Commission does it. But for city elections, it's section 28111. It says, if there's a tie vote between two or more persons having the highest number of votes for an office, the State Election Commission shall cast the deciding vote, except that, and then it talks about other things, and then it says number 2, the municipal legislative body shall cast the deciding vote for municipal offices, or in the alternative, the legislative body may by resolution call for a runoff. Now, as we said earlier, there's really no time for a runoff. But the state law provides for deciding a tie by the municipal legislative body making that choice. Now, the question arises whether that state law, being a law of general application, would preempt this charter provision. I've been a lawyer a long time. I can argue both sides of that. And so there is a fair argument to be made on both sides of that. But I think it is not such a slam dunk case that tells me you should not do this charter amendment, because that side may prevail. But there's a possibility that side may not prevail if it goes to litigation. And the state law then will preempt this charter amendment no matter what you do.
Mr. Frost?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to kindly correct what Mr. Swanson said about filling vacancies on city council. He was right about the office of the mayor, but the city council, as I remembered, and Mr. Johnson pointed out to me where it was in the charter, a vacancy in the office of a city council member shall be filled by appointment by the vote of 6 members of the council of a qualified resident to fill the vacant office within 30 days of the vacancy. So it's 6 people up here would pick a successor council member.
Okay, Council Member Grant?
That's why it's good to have lawyers up here.
Is it?
Mr. Swanson, you kind of, just so I have clarity, what you're saying is that the state law, if we were to pass, the tiebreaker being on the ballot, there's still a possibility that the state law will restrict that from even going into effect.
That is accurate. When the tie occurs, it's got to be resolved one way or the other. It can either be resolved through this state statute, or it can be resolved through a charter or a charter as amended. And one of those has got to be used to break the tie. And a state law of general application typically trumps a city charter provision, but the wording is not exactly the same here, and so it doesn't necessarily directly conflict with the state statute here. So an argument could be made that this is a valid charter amendment, and we'll not know the answer to that until it happens and it gets litigated.
Okay, thank you.
So the voter,
Councilmember Honeycutt.
Yeah, I'm sorry, apologize.
We just lost all decorum.
Yeah, this is all, yeah. So the voters we could put this on the ballot. The voters could decide to do it, and then it'd be found that it's against the state law and then not implemented. Is that?
That could happen.
Yeah. This is a very interesting dialogue. And first of all, Councilwoman Parker, I appreciate you bringing this forward to us. I do, and this, I understand the situation. I don't think any of us want to be in a position to, deny the voters their right or their candidates, and certainly be in a tiebreaker position. One of the reasons, again, the previous ordinance, was brought up in our spring council retreat and debated and talked about, and those that wanted to have, carried it, talked about it since then, and it's been vetted. And that's one of the challenges I'm having here is just, I'm literally Googling facts to try to make a decision, and that concerns me. Because based on my, again, in the moment kind of Googling, it doesn't look like any other city in Tennessee, every other city in Tennessee follows state law, which is, which is currently how Knoxville does it. So, again, I'm working through this like you all, and I'm open to it because I don't want to be in the position to be a tiebreaker, but I just wanted to point those 2 facts out. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Council Parker was right in that previously we had 2 resolutions on the ballot at the same time that affected lessons. One of them was mine. One of them was from Anthony Roberto. I'll get to my question. In both those, the language was completely separate. There was no overlap in language. So when the voters looked at it, they could see that it was 2 separate things. Mine was to realign the 5th district and put them in sync. Andrew's was more of a broader election thing that was more like the old system. My question is, we're doing this on the fly, and it seemed to me that the agenda, when I got the agenda with the 2 items before the amendment, they had a lot of overlapping language. And I don't know if the amendment as put forth removes the overlapping language where you would have clearly one vote on the 50 plus one, and then separate from that, without duplicate verbiage, a vote on the tiebreaker. So that's what I'm talking about. That's my concern about putting both of these on the ballot with overlapping language, even though they don't conflict. I guess my question, well, I think you are ready to answer.
I can tell you that during the 10-minute break, I did not have time to read the full caption of the ordinance and all the whereas clauses that come into it, but the legal operative portion of the ordinance and the question as it is presented will be completely separate and will not be overlapping.
Or confusing.
I don't know whether it be confusing or not. I get confused easily.
With that, my concern is the overlapping verbiage that bothers me, that it's not clear to the voters because they don't study this as much as we do, and we're having a hard time studying it as we are. So,
Thank you. Councilmember DeBartoleben?
One thing that concerns me, and I mentioned it before, is that a three-person race is very different than a two-person race. And I was just looking through our previous primary, and there were two races in a Republican primary where there were three candidates. And had the two of those candidates' votes, they were together more than the third candidate who had ended up winning and going on. So the numbers are different. And so that's one of my concerns about having the two people tied for second go forward and having a three-person race, is that it changes the complexities, and it may mean that if that were not the case, somebody's going to get 50% of the vote, and it may not be the majority from the race before. I personally think that a great way to do it is to flip a coin or draw straws when there is a tie, and take the personal and the emotion out of it. And two people fought, and one gets to go on and take two to the general election.
I can tell you, if you propose flipping a coin, you'll make some people really mad.
Mr. Frost?
Thank you. I'd like to briefly try to address something Councilmember Thomas said about overlapping language. I just want to be clear, and maybe I didn't understand you correctly about the language. I mean, this language that what would appear on the ballot is, a lot of it is required by the state law. I mean, your colleague, Mr. Honeycutt, contacted me about, can this be a little more plain English? And I was like, amen, I wish it could, but we can't. I mean, we're kind of constrained. That's the hand we're dealt. So you'll see whether it's Vice Mayor Fugett's proposal, Councilmember Parker's proposal, or a proposal that's yet to be written for 2 years on down the road, you will see some of the same language. And okay, thank you.
So,
Councilmember Parker?
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify two things. One is the tie vote language. So the language in the ordinance purposefully does not use the word tie. And some staff from MTAS worked with our attorneys to create language that shouldn't conflict with the state law. Now, 2 years ago, when we were considering the regional at-large system, we also didn't know if that would conflict with state law and whether we would receive a challenge if that were to pass, because the state had adopted this new law that essentially required district-only elections for district representatives, but we were trying to find a workaround for that. And so we didn't know when that went on to the ballot, but we voted to put it on there anyway. And what we voted to put on there is the exact same language about breaking a tie that's in my ordinance. So I know that we have a majority of people who are new on council, and I wish we did have more time to debate this. What I would ask is that this is first reading, and I would ask for your support tonight so that we can get clarification over the next 2 weeks to some of your questions. I would recommend watching the city council meeting from 2 years ago because it was a really robust conversation. But I feel confident that we have done our due diligence about addressing the tie vote language, but we never know when the state might want to challenge us. And I feel that similar to the previous ordinance passed, that this is a situation that we should send to the voters and let the voters decide. But we have presented this language on the ballot previously, this exact same language of how to resolve or how to really prevent a tie, so that we do not have to apply the state law, but have a process in place that deals with the candidates receiving the highest number of votes. That's the language that we use, so we did not get into the tie breaker situation. And trusting that we are a chartered city that should be able to create our own laws. And so, yes, oftentimes state law will trump that, but if we create a good charter amendment, which I believe we have done and have come up with good language that hopefully wouldn't be challenged, but that's always the risk. And we faced that risk 2 years ago with the ballot measures that went on the ballot 2 years ago.
Councilmember Honeycutt.
Yes, I appreciate, Councilwoman Parker, your point about the fact that this is first reading, so, in theory, we would have some time to do our due diligence. I think that's a very valid point, and I thank you. I guess this is a question for the attorneys, and maybe you need the time that we do to do your due diligence and your research, but it looks like the Tennessee law says that the municipal election can be broken by the municipal legislative body, aka city council, board of aldermen, that kind of thing, or that body may instead call for a runoff election between the tied candidates. So that is an option that is currently by state law available to city council.
Yeah, I read that a while ago and pointed out that the timing is such between primary and general election, that it's just not a practical thing. It can't really be done.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is this amendment that you all have been discussing. Any further discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? That was really quiet. I don't know what the outcome of that vote is. I guess we'll do a roll call? This is an amendment. No, this is just, I guess, this piece of paper. And then if this amendment passes, then you can vote the whole thing up or down. Well, it sort of is the whole thing.
It'll have to be two motions.
It has to be two motions because the item on the agenda is different from this.
So, point of clarification, the amendment is striking everything but what is left as the amended language.
Correct. That's my
Okay.
understanding.
So, that's what we're voting on. By voting on the amendment, we are voting on the amended language and nothing else on that piece of paper that was part of the original three-part proposal.
That is correct. You're getting rid of the old language, and then you will vote as amended
on just
whether you
this.
want to go up or down.
Got it.
With a tiebreaker.
Okay, let's do that vote over because it was not clear to me what the outcome was. Does everyone understand what they're voting on? Yes. Councilmember Adams, your light's on. Do you have something to add before the vote?
I'm just going to say it just for clarity. I'm voting on the piece of paper that was handed out to us being the thing that we will vote on instead of the thing that was in our packet.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Now, We're voting on the amended motion, which is basically the amendment again. The ordinance as amended. So now you're voting on whether you want to approve this on first reading or not, as amended. Does everyone understand what they're voting on? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, I think it was 2 against and 7 for. Is that right?
I'd like to do a roll call.
Okay, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Parker. Councilman Thomas.
Yes, only because it's first reading, and I do think it's obvious that we need more time to study this. So on first reading, I will vote yes.
Councilwoman Adams. Councilman DeBartoleben.
No.
Vice Mayor Fugit.
No.
Councilman Grant.
Yes.
Councilman Helsley. Councilman Honeycutt.
I agree, first reading, yes.
Councilman Lloyd.
Yes.
Mayor, the vote is 5 in favor, 4 opposed.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll move to public forum now. We have 4 people signed up to speak. First person is Caleb Atkins. Mr. Atkins, you have up to 3 minutes to address council. If you could start by stating your name and address for the record.
My name is Caleb Atkins. I live at 705 DeLapp Drive. I'm here today to request that City Council and the city look into a development being built right across from Inskip Pool and Park. It's my understanding that that development has an obligation to build a sidewalk, and it's about a month until they start accepting residents, and I see no progress on a sidewalk being made. I've heard no updates about that sidewalk. Further from the sidewalk, it's an incredibly unsafe area between the development and the Inskip Pool and Park on Bruin Road. It's a blind hill. I drive it every day. You really can't see vehicles turning until you're right there at it. As there's construction going on in the mornings when I go to work, I barely see it happening. And that's not counting that residents don't live there yet. As children will walk across to go to the park, it's an incredibly dangerous area. There needs to be some sort of speed bump, stoplight, crosswalk, caution sign, and currently there's none of those things. So for the safety of the people in the Inskip neighborhood, the children and the family there, I think there needs to be some sort of infrastructure and investment and development and looking into how we can make that safer in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up is Elliot Lloyd. Elliot Lloyd, are you present? Okay, I think Elliot Lloyd left. Nicole Skinner.
Don't worry, y'all, I'm still here. No need to fret.
If you could start by saying your name and address for the record, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Hello again. My name's Nicole Skinner. I live in Inskip. Earlier during the brief debate on the decision to add more cameras to Market Square, a question was asked of the police chief that he answered with a nod. And I think it's important that the public has that answer on record. So I do want to ask again, police chief, just to clarify, will any agency outside of KPD have access to the data collected from these new cameras in Market Square?
Ms. Skinner, public forum is an opportunity for us to listen. We don't respond to questions during public forum. We'll have someone speak to you after the conclusion of public forum.
Right. Okay, well, perhaps a rhetorical question, some food for thought, if you will. What opportunities are given to the public to ask these kind of questions? Because as I was hoping to engage with y'all, but I'll talk at you some more. As most of us are aware, ICE agents are currently using unmarked, regular-looking vehicles with regular Tennessee license plates, in some counties with the assistance of other law enforcement agencies, in some, including in Knoxville, sometimes entirely alone, surrounding members of our community while they're driving, pulling them over, abducting them, and then towing their vehicles away. I know you don't want to answer questions or can't answer questions in public forum, but council members, can you please raise your hand if you've asked the police chief what agencies have access to automatic license plate readers in Knoxville? Can you please raise your hand if you've asked the police chief that question?
Again, Ms. Skinner, this is our opportunity to hear from you.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. That's very convenient. Well, I think watching meetings like this one make me really question who y'all are serving. Because I think the answer should be obvious. The answer should be the people who live in the city of Knoxville, whether or not they voted for y'all. But all I hear you talk about are business owners, cops, some horses, specifically the horses that the cops are riding, and yourselves. You spent more time asking questions, trying to find ways to make your future runs for re-election easier and cheaper than you did asking questions about these cameras that you voted to indefinitely install in Market Square, which is already hyper-surveilled. And frankly, 3 minutes is an insult. It's an insult, so you can't even begin to adequately cover any of these topics. But I do want to extend my hand and say that I would be glad to sit down with any of you, except I will only speak to a cop on public record, more about this topic. And I hope you start asking more important questions than I've seen you ask today.
Next person signed up for public forum is Keith Richardson. You could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 3 minutes.
Keith Richardson, 2526 Jefferson Avenue. I know it's customary for council to recognize citizens who've done exemplary work. I came to this public forum to recognize one of your council people, Councilman DeBartoleben. I practiced that on the way in and had one of the ladies who was getting ready to create her bed on the sidewalk look up at me and say, "Are you okay, sir?" But what you have done, what this man has done, even though it was not part of his job, obviously as council person, but to locate and secure a site for Greyhound to have a terminal in our city, you may not be aware of how important that is. Those of us who have worked with folks who use the bus service know what they've experienced there. We know what the businesses in Burlington have experienced recently. What you may not know is, while at one time Chattanooga was a stop. So if you lived in Chattanooga, wanted to come to Knoxville, you could get a Greyhound ticket. Now you have to go to either Athens or Manchester to be able to get to Knoxville or Nashville. The Tri-Cities was once a stop. It is no longer. And I'm not talking about not having a terminal. There is no stop there. So by the fact that there is going to be a terminal established here, helps secure better transportation for all of the citizens, for the people who don't have reliable cars, aren't able to fly, don't have the income to do that. A lot of people who you don't see coming here to the meetings will continue to have access to transportation to other cities. What concerns me is that the East Tennessee Development District has a regional transportation planning organization which never addresses anything about intercity bus lines. And if Knoxville could take leadership and ask them to address the issues that serve the entire region to get more access so that the people in their 16-county area don't necessarily all have to find their way, when they don't have a car, reliable transportation, to get to Knoxville in order to go to another city. Anyway, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes people who signed up for public forum, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.